Hey, what's up, vinyl community? It's Doug, back with another update. I got a few more things to show you. I had two new finds this week at a record store. Kind of a new shop that just started up last year. And popped in there today, or a couple of days ago. And this one probably needs no introduction. King Crimson. It's a gatefold. One of these ones that opens up from the inside. I know, those kind of drive me crazy. Green and red tricolor Atlantic label. Almost perfect shape. Actually, I had some store credit I ended up getting for that, so I ended up getting this for about $4. I've also got In the Wake of Poseidon and Lizard on my collection, so that's a nice, makes for a nice trilogy. Kind of had my eye on this one for a while. I've known the title track for many years from hearing it on the radio, but never got around to picking up the album. Just kind of never found a copy that was affordable. So that was a good pickup. And I also got this one, Charles Wright, Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band, You're So Beautiful, 1971 on Warner Brothers, green label, and that's this gatefold there. It's got their most well-known tune, Express Yourself, on it. It's a second version of it, though. They actually had an album titled after that song that came up before this, and it was so popular that they put it on this album as well. This is kind of a looser, kind of jammy version of it. Kind of like they finished the original cut and just decided to keep going. So it's good. It's not one of their best, I don't think. I only have one other LP by them, but it's good. Funk, soul, it's good stuff. Incidentally, Charles Wright, the uncle of Eazy-E from NWA, who also sampled Express Yourself. I'm guessing they didn't have too much trouble getting the rights to sample that one. The family connection came in handy. I wanted to talk a bit more about one of the records I showed in my last video. Rotary Connection, Hey Love. I think that's also 1971 if I'm not mistaken. On Cadet Concept, which is a subsidiary of Chess. This is a promo copy. My last video I was talking about the pickups from a record show, and this is one of the ones I got. I'm still doing some listening to this stuff from the show, and this was one of them, and this is awesome. I got, I think, 2 or 3 other LPs by them. I think I'm mainly still looking for the self-titled debut, but this one is the bomb. Minnie Riperton, one of the vocalists on here, who went on to have a solo career. But, it's kind of the brainchild of Charles Stepney, the producer and arranger. Again, pretty well known probably to a lot of people. Kind of Baroque chamber soul, it's often described as. Little touch of psych here and there. The mixed male-female harmonies kind of reminiscent of Fifth Dimension at times, but much more elaborate backing and arrangements. Most well-known tune on here is called I Am the Black Gold of the Sun, which has kind of a message of pride. And the follow-up song, Hanging Around the Bee Tree, has a real rural kind of folky blues feeling to it. It starts off a cappella with a strong male vocal, and then kind of the jazzy instrumental backing comes in. But fairly restrained and keeps the focus on the vocals. And the last tune on side 1 is the title track, Hey Love, which is just kind of the perfect sunshine pop kind of feel-good tune. Actually, this whole album would sound great on the patio in the middle of summer. Beverage of choice next to you. Side 2, they cover Terry Callier's Song for Every Man. Again, a touch of kind of that rural folk blues kind of feel to it. And then it follows up with Love Is and Vine of Happiness. Love Is kind of again, kind of sunshiny feel to it, and Vine of Happiness, more straight up soul, touch of funk, kind of a message of unity. So, soul with a message. Awesome. Check it out if you get a chance. Now, finds from the show was a couple of weeks ago. Actually, a little bit before that, I had quite a bunch of pickups at actually a used bookstore that has some vinyl, not too far from me. I just walked in there on chance one day, and they had just got in a huge collection. They were still being in crates being sorted, nothing was priced yet. And there was some amazing stuff in there, a lot of punk, post-punk, new wave, that kind of thing, jazz. So I ended up grabbing a few things, didn't really know what the price was going to be. Ended up getting a bit of a discount, but still overall paid, I think, fair market value. Pretty well everything was close to near mint. The story was it was a bunch of crates from somebody that had worked in a record store locally, a well-known record store in kind of late 70s, early 80s period, and just stashed a bunch of records away. And as far as I can tell, they're barely even played, if at all. So, I got, been on the lookout for this one, War, World is a Ghetto. Covered a little bit of wear, vinyl's perfect. So, well known to everybody, I'm sure. Title track is classic. Cisco Kid is a good one too. Still filling in my War discography. I used to see their stuff around like really cheap in like the dollar bins and stuff, and then once I started actually looking for them, they all disappeared. And also got Ike and Tina, Ripper Deep, Mountain High. Kind of the last 60s Phil Spector production. It kind of failed and sent him into musical exile for a while. A&M label. Just straight mint condition. A couple of jazz ones. Not huge into jazz. I've tried over the years to get a little bit deeper into it. Just now I'm starting to check more stuff out. But I got Coltrane, Dakar. It's on Prestige. And also Ascension. These are both MCA label on that one. These are both kind of early 80s reissues. A little bit of ring wear, but otherwise they're mint. This one, not the easiest listen for me, not being a huge jazz guy. Very busy, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of players, as you can see here on the back. But definitely intriguing, one to check out further. Dakar, a little more accessible, kind of from an earlier period. Also got Art Ensemble of Chicago, Phase 1. That is also on Prestige. This one is cool. I like that one. And I got Specials, Ghost Town 12-inch. This again, Chrysalis label. Still got the original inner sleeve. Almost perfect condition on that one. And getting into the they also had some reggae. As I said in my previous video, that's a big part of my listening. I'm hoping to show some of that in my videos. It's something I don't see a lot of covered in depth in the VC. I'm hoping to show some records that are not commonly seen or won't be known to most people. Again, I don't see a lot of it in my area as far as originals or vintage pressings. My collection was mostly kind of reissues up until about 3 or 4 years ago, when I started hooking up with a couple of sellers that are able to get some stuff for me at a good price. So I've since then the balance in my collection is starting to shift more towards originals and vintage pressings. So some of these I'm going to show I had on reissue already or had in lesser condition, so they're upgrade copies. This is Nicodemus and Toyin DJ Clash, which came out on the Green Sleeves label from the UK, which is kind of the iconic British label that was on the scene, kind of late 70s, early 80s. Almost their entire catalog from like 1979 to 1985. Almost everything is considered classic. Got Toots and the Maytals, Funky Kingston. Classic one on Island Records, late 70s. Actually saw him live. I don't know if you can see behind me. Saw him live several years ago. He's got to be in his 60s by then, and he can dance, let me tell you. I'd probably end up in the hospital if I tried to do what he does on stage. Black Uhuru, Black Sounds of Freedom. Another one on Green Sleeves. Yes, Green Sleeves. This is their debut album. This is actually a slightly remixed version. It came out in Jamaica originally under the title Love Crisis. And then a couple of years later, remixed by Prince Jammy and put out on the Green Sleeves label in England. They later went on to win the first Reggae Grammy a few years later. Augustus Pablo, probably some people will be familiar with him. You might even have some of his classic albums like King Tubby Meets the Rockers Uptown. It's very similar style. This one came out on Green Sleeves. I thought that was the version it was going to be, but this is actually Message, which is his own label. And again, this is Augustus Pablo instrumentals dubbed up by King Tubby. Classic album. This one, The Harder They Come soundtrack, kind of launched the career of Jimmy Cliff internationally. He'd already been recording in Jamaica for many years. He also starred in the title role of the movie that this is the soundtrack to, and does some of the key tunes. You Can Get It If You Really Want, Many Rivers to Cross, Sitting in Limbo, and the title track, The Harder They Come. He repeats The Harder They Come and You Can Get It If You Really Want on side 2, in slightly different cuts. But there's also tunes by the Melodians, Rivers of Babylon, later covered by Boney M. The Maytals, from Toots and the Maytals, some of their tunes. And Desmond Decker, Shantytown. The Slickers, Johnny Too Bad. And Scotty, Draw Your Brakes. So pretty well every tune's classic. If you're just getting into reggae or trying to get into it, this is one of the records that's a really good entry point and should be in any collection. It's essential. And I got this one also from the bookstore. This is Dr. Alimentato, Sons of Thunder. Also sometimes called Born for a Purpose, from one of the other tunes, well-known tunes on there. This is another one that's on Green Sleeves. He's kind of he's a DJ, which was kind of the Jamaican version of a rapper. Before rap had kind of fully developed in the US. He was kind of not really well known in Jamaica, then went to England, just as the Green Sleeves label was starting up, and recorded 2 classic albums. The first one was actually the very first release on Green Sleeves, LP release. Best Dressed Chicken in Town. Kind of a iconic cover shot. Never been able to quite work out what's going on in there, but classic album on the Green Sleeves label. Actually, Grell 1 is the matrix number. And that one was the Sons of Thunder album, was his follow-up. So 2 classic albums. Best Dressed Chicken in Town, I think the title track is actually produced by, Lee Scratch Perry. So kind of very mad, very weird. Check it out if you get a chance. I got 2 by Bob Marley. It's probably like the 3rd or 4th time I've bought these albums, but this one I did not have on vinyl. Rastaman Vibration. Perfect Condition. And Burnin'. Both gatefolds. Both kind of early pressings on Island. This one was an upgrade copy for me, and the Rastaman Vibration I have on CD but did not have on vinyl, so nice to pick that up. And I also got, I showed some craft work in my last video. I just kind of got into them recently. I found a used CD and really liked it. And I got, at the bookstore, I got Radioactivity and Trans Europe Express. And this is kind of a, you can see, Japanese pressing on it.